Your faith is the key. Stop forcing the door and start trusting me. You have been standing in front of the same locked door for so long that part of you has started wondering whether I ever gave you the right key. You prayed, you waited, you tried to stay hopeful, but the phone still did not ring. The relationship still did not heal. The bill remained folded beneath a stack of unopened envelopes on the kitchen table because you already knew the number inside it. And late at night, when the room was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the blue light from your phone, you asked the question you were almost ashamed to say out loud. Jesus, am I doing something wrong? My child, listen carefully. Your faith is not useless because the door has not opened yet. And faith is not pretending that the door is not locked. Faith is standing in front of a door you cannot force open, with a key you cannot fully explain, trusting the one who placed it in your hand. I call this the trembling key, because real faith does not always look brave. Sometimes faith looks like wiping your eyes in the bathroom before walking back into the room. Sometimes it looks like whispering one honest prayer after a week of silence. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed, washing your face, and trying again when your emotions are offering you absolutely no evidence that anything will change. You may think faith means feeling certain, but I am not asking you to feel nothing. I am asking you to trust me with what you feel. The key does not stop working because your hand is trembling, and the door is not the only thing I am changing. While you are waiting for it to open, I am changing you. And before we finish, I want to show you how to recognize the difference between a door you must keep knocking on, a door you must stop trying to force, and a door I have already opened in a way you did not expect. So let us talk honestly about the doors you have been staring at and the key you may already be holding. There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep does not fix. It comes from standing in front of a door that will not move, even though you have prayed until the words started sounding tired in your own mouth. Maybe you sent the application and checked your inbox before your feet even touched the floor in the morning. Maybe you reread the last message from someone you love, staring at the little timestamp beneath it, wondering how a person who once knew your smallest habits could suddenly become a stranger. Maybe you sat at the kitchen table with a calculator, subtracting the same numbers again and again, as though the total might become kinder if you looked at it long enough. And now you are wondering whether you need to push harder, pray louder, fast longer, try one more strategy. My child, I see you, but listen to me carefully. Not every closed door is an invitation to break your shoulder against it. There are moments when persistence is obedience, but there are also moments when your frantic effort is not faith anymore. It is fear wearing religious clothing. You keep thinking, if I do everything perfectly, perhaps I can make the door open, but I never asked you to become the doorkeeper of your entire life. I asked you to follow me. Ask yourself one honest question. Is this next step coming from peace, or is it coming from panic? Because the same action can come from two very different places. You can send one more message because love is calling you to speak clearly. Or you can send one more message because silence has become unbearable and you are desperate to control how somebody responds. You can work diligently because the task belongs to today, or you can work until your body is exhausted because you are terrified that everything depends entirely on you. Remember what I said, ask and it shall be given you, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. Matthew 7:7 KJV. Notice the word knock. I did not say you must tear the door from its hinges. There is a difference. You can knock faithfully without living anxiously. You can prepare for the opportunity without worshipping the outcome. You can love someone deeply without chasing them until you lose your dignity. I know waiting can feel like rejection, but silence is not always absence. A closed door does not always mean that I have forgotten you. Sometimes I am arranging what you cannot see. Sometimes I am protecting you from what looks beautiful from the hallway but would wound you once you stepped inside. And sometimes before I open the door, I am teaching you something more precious: how to stand still without falling apart. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10 KJV. Do what is yours to do today. Then place your hand back in mine. You were never meant to carry the whole door. You may think faith is supposed to make you feel fearless. You may imagine that if you truly trusted me, your breathing would never become shallow when the phone rings unexpectedly. You would never lie awake at 2:17 in the morning staring at the ceiling while the same thought circles your mind like a bird trapped inside a room. You would never open your banking app, close it and open it again 10 minutes later, even though you already know nothing has changed. And when fear returns, you may whisper, "Jesus, why am I still like this? Why is my faith so weak?" My child, fear is not proof that you have failed me. Faith is not the absence of a trembling hand. Faith is placing the key into the lock while your hand is still trembling. Do you remember the father who brought his suffering son to me? He did not arrive with polished words or perfect confidence. He said, "Lord, I believe. Help thou mine unbelief." Mark 9:24 KJV. That was not a weak prayer. That was an honest prayer. You do not have to hide the frightened part of your heart from me. I already see it. I am not disappointed by the questions you are afraid to ask. I am not standing at a distance with folded arms, waiting for you to become emotionally flawless before I come near. I come near because you are trembling. When you sat alone in the dark and could not find the words to pray, I did not step away from you. I stayed in the room. I heard the breath you were trying to steady. I saw the tears you wiped away before anyone else could notice them. There is a difference between fear visiting your heart and fear becoming your master. Fear may knock. It may sit beside you for a while. It may speak loudly when the room becomes quiet, but it does not have to choose your next step. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. John 13:1 KJV. Notice what I said. I did not shame the troubled heart. I spoke directly to it. So when fear rises tomorrow morning, do not waste your strength pretending it is not there. Name it, bring it to me, then take one faithful step. Send the necessary message. Get out of bed. Pray the honest prayer. Do the next small thing with me. The key still works, even in a trembling hand. There is something you do when you are afraid nothing is changing. You check the lock again. You refresh the inbox while your coffee is still too hot to drink. You look at your phone even though it did not vibrate. You open the conversation you promised yourself you would stop rereading, then scroll back through old messages searching for one sentence that might mean the story is not over. Maybe you check your bank balance before breakfast, after lunch, and once more before bed. Maybe you keep watching someone else's life online, wondering whether they miss you as much as you miss them. Maybe you ask me for a sign, receive a quiet answer, and then ask for another sign because the first one did not silence the anxiety for very long. I understand why you do it. You are not trying to be difficult, you are trying to feel safe. But my child, there is a point when checking the lock stops being wisdom and starts becoming a private form of torment. Every time you return to the door, you hope to find new evidence, but when nothing has changed, your heart absorbs the disappointment all over again. You do not need to reopen the wound every hour to prove that you care. You do not need to monitor every detail to prove that you have faith. Remember what I said, take therefore no thought for the morrow, for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Matthew 6:34 KJV. I was not telling you to become careless. I was teaching you not to drag tomorrow's weight into today's hands. There is a practice I want you to learn. I call it the quiet release. After you have prayed, acted wisely, and completed what belongs to you, step away from the lock. Choose a time when you will check again. Until then, leave the phone where it is. Close the conversation. Stop asking the same silence to give you a different answer every 5 minutes. You are allowed to live while you wait. Faith is not staring at the door until it opens. Faith is trusting me enough to live faithfully in the room you are already in, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. 1 Peter 5:7 KJV. You do not have to carry the future in your pocket all day. Give it back to me. Then return to the life that is still happening around you. There is a mistake people sometimes make when they talk about faith. They begin to treat it like a formula, say the right words, pray with enough confidence, repeat the promise often enough. Never admit that you are afraid. And perhaps if you perform every step correctly, the door will finally open exactly the way you wanted. My child, faith is not a secret code that gives you control over me. It is not a spiritual lever you pull until heaven gives you the outcome you requested. I know that may be difficult to hear, especially when the thing you are asking for is not selfish. You are not asking for luxury. You are asking for your marriage to heal, for the medical results to be different, for your child to come home, for the job to arrive before the savings account reaches a number that makes your stomach tighten. Those prayers matter to me. You matter to me. But faith is not measured by your ability to force a specific door open. Faith is the key that keeps your heart connected to mine while you wait in the hallway. Remember my words, abide in me and I in you, John 15:4 KJV. I did not say control every outcome. I said abide. Stay with me. Remain close when the answer comes quickly. Remain close when the answer comes slowly. Remain close when the answer looks nothing like the picture you carried in your mind. Let us be honest for a moment. Sometimes you do not only want my presence, you want me to prove my love by giving you the answer you requested. But my love for you was never measured by how quickly I changed your circumstances. You want an explanation. You want a timeline. You want a neatly printed map with every difficult turn circled in advance. But if I handed you every answer before the journey began, you might learn to trust the map without ever learning to trust my hand. That is why I said, peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. John 14:27 KJV. The world offers peace when circumstances become predictable. I offer peace while the hallway is still quiet. Bring me the door you cannot open. Bring me the answer you cannot manufacture. Then sit with me for a moment without turning the prayer into a transaction. The key was never meant to control me. It was meant to keep you close to me. Some of the most important moments of faith will never look impressive to anyone else. There will be no music playing in the background. No one will clap. No one will know how close you came to giving up before you made one quiet decision to trust me again. Maybe faith looks like washing your face, getting dressed, and showing up for the work in front of you, even though your heart still feels heavy. Maybe it looks like apologizing without adding a sentence that quietly blames the other person. Maybe it looks like answering gently when you already prepared a sharper response in your mind. Maybe it looks like keeping a boundary without turning your pain into bitterness. Maybe it looks like paying one bill, making one appointment, cleaning one corner of the room, or praying one honest sentence before you take the next step. My child, do not underestimate these moments. I call them the quiet turns. A key does not need to make a loud sound to unlock a door. And your faith does not need to be dramatic to be real. Sometimes the bravest prayer is only 5 words. Jesus, help me not react. Sometimes obedience means listening all the way to the end before preparing your defense. Sometimes love means forgiving someone without giving them unlimited access to hurt you again. Sometimes trust means doing the work in front of you while refusing to punish yourself for not having solved your entire life by lunchtime. Remember what I said. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. Luke 16:10 KJV. The world often celebrates visible victories. I notice the hidden ones. People may never know what it cost you to remain gentle. They may never see the argument you chose not to continue. They may never hear the prayer you whispered in the car before you opened the door. But I saw it. And heaven does not overlook the quiet obedience that the world never applauds. I see when you choose gentleness even though your chest is tight with frustration. I see when you keep your heart soft without reopening a door that has already wounded you. That is not weakness. That is a quiet turn of the key. Do not wait for a grand moment to practice faith. Trust me in the next decision. Trust me in the next conversation. Trust me in the ordinary hour when nobody is watching. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7 KJV. One quiet turn may not feel like much, but it may be the moment your heart begins to open. There are doors you still ask me to open, even though I know what is waiting behind them. You only see the polished handle. You see the opportunity that would finally make people respect you. You see the relationship that still looks beautiful in the photographs, even though you remember the way your stomach tightened whenever their name appeared on your screen. You see the version of your life that seems perfect from the outside, and because the door remains closed, you assume I am withholding something good. But, my child, sometimes the locked door is not rejection. Sometimes it is rescue. I know this is hard to accept when you are grieving what you hoped would happen. You may have spent months imagining the conversation, the phone call, the moment everything would finally fall into place. You may have rehearsed the future so many times in your mind that letting go now feels like losing something you already owned. But you cannot see every room from the hallway. I can. I saw the conversations you never heard. I saw the compromise that would have slowly become normal. I saw the version of you that would have learned to smile in public while disappearing inside. I saw how long you would have stayed simply because leaving felt like failure. So when the door did not open, I was not standing against you. I was standing between you and something you did not yet know how to recognize. There are places that would have celebrated your talent while quietly starving your soul. There are people you wanted to keep close who would have required you to become smaller, quieter, and less honest just to keep the peace. There are opportunities that looked like answered prayers but would have filled your calendar so completely that you would no longer recognize your own heart. Remember my words, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Mark 8:36 KJV. Not everything that shines is a blessing, not everything you lose is a punishment, and not every door worth entering will require you to abandon your peace at the threshold. I know you may still be thinking, but Jesus, why did you let me get so close? Because sometimes you need to stand near a door long enough to understand why it cannot become your home. You are not foolish for hoping. You are not weak for grieving, but do not confuse grief with guidance. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. John 10:27 KJV. Do not spend another season begging me to reopen what I closed to save you. If I close a door, stay close enough to hear me. I am not leaving you in an empty hallway. I am leading you toward a place where you will not have to lose yourself just to remain inside. Sometimes you pray for a door to open, and when it finally does, you almost miss it. Not because I ignored you, but because the answer does not look like the picture you carried in your mind. You asked me to rescue you from the pressure, expecting the problem to disappear by morning. Instead, I gave you the strength to walk through one more difficult day without becoming bitter. You asked me to restore the relationship, imagining the apology you wanted to hear. Instead, I slowly taught you how to release someone you loved without checking your phone every 15 minutes, hoping their name would light up the screen again. You asked me for a clear plan, but I gave you one small step. And I know what you might be thinking. Jesus, is this really the answer? Because it does not feel like the answer I prayed for. My child, I understand. It is painful when your prayer is answered in a language your expectations do not immediately recognize. You may have been waiting for me to change your circumstances while I was quietly rebuilding your heart. You wanted the storm to stop, but sometimes my answer is to teach you that the storm does not have the authority to decide who you become. Do you remember my disciples in the boat? The waves were filling the ship, and they cried, "Master, carest thou not that we perish?" Mark 4:38 KJV. They thought my silence meant I did not care, but I was still in the boat, and I am still with you. Sometimes I calm the storm around you. Sometimes I calm the storm inside you first. Do not dismiss the quiet answers. The courage to begin again is an answer. The wisdom to walk away is an answer. The peace that arrives before the situation changes is an answer. The night when you finally sleep without rehearsing every worst-case scenario is an answer. The moment you pass the place that once carried so many memories and realize you can breathe without falling apart is an answer. The morning when you return to the kitchen table, unfold the bill, and decide to face one number at a time instead of hiding from all of it is an answer. Do not call it nothing simply because it arrived quietly. You may not understand every turn of the road today. That is all right. Trust me with the shape of the answer. Trust me when the open door is smaller, quieter, and more ordinary than you expected. Sometimes the miracle is not that you received the life you imagined. Sometimes the miracle is that through everything you became someone who knows how to walk with me. My child, you do not need to understand the entire hallway tonight. You do not need to know when the door will open, what will be waiting behind it, or why the journey has taken longer than you expected. You only need to ask one honest question. What is the next small act of trust I can place in your hands today? Maybe your next step is not dramatic. Maybe it is getting out of bed before your thoughts convince you to disappear beneath the blankets again. Maybe it is closing the message you have reread 20 times and refusing to reopen a wound that needs time to heal. Maybe it is making the phone call you have been avoiding, apologizing without defending yourself, or praying one simple sentence because complicated words feel impossible right now. That is enough. Do not despise the small turn of the key. Faith is not always loud. It does not always feel powerful. Sometimes faith is only a trembling hand reaching for mine in a dark hallway. Remember what I said. If ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, nothing shall be impossible unto you. Matthew 17:20 KJV. I did not ask you to arrive with a mountain in your hands. I asked you to bring me the seed. Bring me the fear you cannot silence. Bring me the question you cannot answer. Bring me the outcome you cannot control. Then let me carry what was never meant to rest entirely on your shoulders. You are not forgotten because you are waiting. You are not failing because your hand still shakes. And you are not alone in the hallway. I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. Matthew 28:20 KJV. So breathe, take my hand, do what belongs to today. Before you leave this moment, name the door you have been trying to force open, then place it in my hands, not tomorrow, not when you finally feel calm. Now, put the phone down, take one slow breath, and take the step that is already in front of you. Your faith is still the key. Not because your hand has stopped trembling, but because the hand holding the key is resting inside mine.